All right, y'all, there's a big debate on whether you should steam blue crabs or boil them. And I don't know if it's me just being from Louisiana or what, but I just don't see the purpose of steaming crabs and throwing the seasoning on top. But I guess everybody just has their own preference, and this is mine. You season your water up to perfection, add things like onions, garlic, celery, whatever you like to add that extra flavor, and you're good to go. None of that extra seasoning or anything is needed. And those vegetables like the onions and garlic are super tender and a great side addition to your crab boil. And I know people say boiled crabs are waterlogged and just mushy, but that's not true. You're just not doing it right. And that's why I'm here right now to show you exactly how to do it. It'll be the most flavorful crabs you'll ever have, and you'll never turn back. It's super flaky, full of flavor, and I'm telling y'all, it's pressure. And this is no disrespect to the Maryland way, the way y'all steam them. This is just how I was brought up in Louisiana, so we don't have to have all those comments in between about one way is the right way. That's the beauty of food and why I love everything about it. One person might like one thing one way, and another person might like it the other, and there's nothing wrong with that. And if you aren't already subscribed to my channel, make sure that y'all subscribe and turn on those push notifications, because we get real deep down in the salt with these recipes, and I would love for y'all to join this journey. Give this video a thumbs up and let's get into it. So boom, first we started off by heading to our seafood lot. This is in West Wego, Louisiana. When dealing with seafood, you want to find wherever has the freshest seafood, and for us, this is it. The crabs are live and active, and there's different brackets of what type of crabs you can get. And the way you buy crabs, about a dozen, so you could get them from cheapest to more expensive from left to right. Of course, the ones on the left will be smaller, but every type of crab has its own purpose depending on the dish you're using it. But since we want boiled crabs and at the start of the dish, we're gonna go with the biggest ones. And the smallest ones go from $14 a dozen all the way to the biggest ones being $30 a dozen. And the great thing about seafood lots is they make their own prices. So if you're a regular or they just having a good day, they'll give you a discount. I got the $30 crabs for half price. That's $15 a dozen, and that's $1 more than what the smallest crabs would be. So of course this is a steal, and I need all that. I'll explain the purpose for the ice later, but for now, let's get back home. Just like I did in my crawfish boil video, you want to add some things to enhance that flavor of the boil. First, we're going to start off with a bag of onions. You don't have to cut the skin off. Once it goes in the boil, it'll just fall off and these onions will be super tender. And of course, garlic goes in anything. Just like with the onions, you don't have to take the skin off. We're going to throw this right up in there and it'll get super tender just like the onions. I'm telling y'all, the prep work for this is super simple. Now, after we add that, you could add stuff like celery and all that, but we're not going to do that this time. I'm going to go with a 4-pound bag of oranges to add that citrus to the boil. This will add a nice sweetness to go with that spicy that's going to be in here. Some people add things like pineapples, but I just don't like the flavor it gives it. But some people love it and add it in there. So again, whatever you like, you could throw it in there. And of course, another perfect pairing with seafood would be lemon. Some people say the acid from the lemons will break down the shells of seafood and make it easier to peel. I'm not really sure if that's a fact or not. You can look that up, but I just like the flavor it adds, so I put lemons in all my seafood boils. Now, if you're having a bunch of people over and you don't feel like feeding them all these types of crabs, it's perfect to have sides. I'm going with potatoes. You could add things like sausage. People add green beans, mushrooms, all that. But since this is just a quick boil, we're not doing too much extra. We're just going to add the potatoes. I also like to add corn. I just didn't do it this time. As far as the potatoes go, my favorite one to use would be baby red potatoes. You don't have to slice them or anything. They perfect size. Just throw them right on in there. Don't be intimidated by a seafood boil pot. If you have just a dozen or so, you could do this in a big pot inside. Since I'm doing a lot of crabs, I'm going to go ahead and use my boiler outside. You want to fill it up to the max line, and then we're going to turn on our propane. The propane tank I had was running out, so I just used the last of what it had left, but I just needed the water warm enough just to start dissolving those seasonings into it. Now, you really don't need to squeeze the lemon and orange juice into the water. All that citrus will be pulled out while it's boiling. I just wanted Savannah to be involved in the process, so we squeezed it in there. Some people squeeze it, but you really don't need to. Now, once that's done, we're going to go ahead and add in our vegetables. We had the onions and garlic. You could add celery or whatever else, but we just went with onions and garlic. And now we're going to go ahead with our seasonings. All right, so 2/3 cup of garlic. 2/3 cup of granulated onion, 2/3 cup of salt or accent. You don't have to use accent if you don't want the MSG. And then if you want some spice, you can add some cayenne pepper. A lot of people don't use butter, but we're gonna throw some salted butter in there. In the seafood boil, when the seafood is soaking, it soaks up all the flavor of everything that's in the boil. So why not add that richness of butter in there? That's just my opinion. If you don't think it does anything, just don't add the butter into there. Then we're gonna come with a whole bottle of hot sauce. Usually you have the top stitch, you can just screw it off, but if they don't have that, you're gonna have to sit here and do it like that. Then you have a 3.5 ounce container of dried bay leaf. And with crabs, you usually have to season it a little bit more than what you would season crawfish with, so we're gonna go with a whole bottle of liquid concentrate. They have different flavors of this: lemon, garlic, and onion. This one just a regular. This is a boil booster. This one's salt-free, so you don't have to be hesitant about how much of this you add. It'll just enhance the flavor of the garlic and herbs and lemon and all that. And when it's not seasoned enough, you still add in about 4 pounds of your favorite crab boil. And when seasoned right, the crabs will absorb every single flavor that's in here. It might not look seasoned on the outside, but the inside will be full of flavor. It's why I never really understood why to throw the seasoning on top, because you want your actual meat to be flavored. But to get this boil really going, we're gonna go ahead and change out our propane tank and get that flame high. This double burner on full blast will really get this water boiling in about 10 minutes. It's very convenient. And once our water starts to get hot, we're gonna go ahead and add our potatoes and let it cook for about 10 minutes because this will take the longest to cook. And while that's going, I told y'all earlier I was gonna explain to y'all the reason behind putting the ice on top of your crab, and here it is. First, you want to make sure that any excess water in your ice chest is drained because you don't want them soaking in that ice water. It'll kill them. We still want them alive. When crabs go into boiling hot water, they tend to detach their claws from their body. It's just a natural reaction. So you want to add that ice on top because it basically puts them straight to sleep. It gives the same effect of anesthesia. So the crabs are still alive and fresh. They're just asleep and lose that sensation to detach the claws when they go into the water. Now I'm gonna go ahead and show y'all how you tell the difference between a male and a female crab. On a male crab, they'll have the back plate on them that is very narrow and their tips of the claws will be blue. Whereas on the mature female crab, they'll have more of a wider back plate and the tips of the claws will be an orange color. You can kind of think of it as the female crab has fingernail polish. It's really that simple. Now that we have our water boiling, we're gonna go ahead and get ready to throw our crabs right in there. Now we got 2 dozen crabs. We're using another dozen that we're gonna put on the grill. Now what you want to do is bring your water back up to a rolling boil, and I like to let them boil for about 6 to 8 minutes. And with a boiling pot, even adding those frozen crabs, this water will come right back to a boil within minutes. That's why I love it so much. But now we're just going to close it off and let it cook. And this isn't a sponsored ad or anything. I just love the way this boil pot works. I got this one from Academy. It boils everything super efficient, and I love it for all of my seafood boils outdoors. And believe it or not, this is the smaller version. Now, after the crabs are finished boiling, this is an essential part of the whole thing. This is called the soak. I like to soak it 2 different ways. The first one, I turn the heat off and let it have a hot soak for about 15 minutes. As you can see, the claws are still attached to our crab, so it did exactly what it needed to do in that ice. After a hot soak, I like to do what's called a zesty soak. We're going to add ice into it and let it really absorb those flavors. And I know a lot of people are going to say adding ice to it is going to make it dilute the flavor, but you add so much flavor to this, it's not really going to do anything to it. And here goes my daughter trying to make sure daddy stays hydrated. It is hot out here in this Louisiana heat, for real. Now, you know your seafood is done once they start to sink to the bottom. That means they've shocked themselves and absorbed all the flavor and pulled it in and sunk themselves to the bottom. I did the zesty soak for about 25 minutes. The longer you let them soak, the more they'll absorb that flavor. Just pull them out and look at that. Yes, Lord. Now it's time to go ahead and dump them out, and you really could let them cool for a little while because they'll be super hot, but I needed to try these right now. First, we add the onion. As you can see, the skin is off and it's super tender. It's delicious. It has a sweetness to it. I just love it. Now we have our garlic. The garlic, you can squeeze it right out. Add this on some garlic bread. Eat it as is. It's just super flavorful, and another thing that I love. Then you have your potatoes. They're super tender, full of that spicy flavor. Dip them in some butter. You're good to go. Now we're going to break down the crab. First, we're going to start off with the claws. This is my daughter's favorite part, so I'm going to go ahead and break it down for her. And a lot of people have the crab crackers and stuff, but we just crack the claws with our teeth in Louisiana. Now I'm going to go ahead and get that piece to my daughter and then break down the rest of the claw, and then we're going to get into breaking down the crab. First, we're going to go ahead and remove that little back plate. Then put your thumb in between and separate the shell from the body. You can clean the shell, save it, and make stuffed crabs with them. And what I'm doing right here is removing the lungs. That's not edible. You want to take that out. And unlike the popular snow crabs and king crabs, the meat is not in the legs, it's in the body. They have meat in the legs, but the majority of your meat is going to come from the body. So you want to break that down and get all that meat out. And a lot of people are going to just say it's too much work, but in Louisiana, it's therapeutic. Y'all go ahead and leave in the comments whether y'all like steamed crabs or boiled crabs. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and just like my name, you're all done.